Hey folks, I'm doing another episode of Secrets of the Liminal Spirits, and I figured I'd try using StreamYard since it worked so well last week with our oils and spirits discussion. And most specifically, as I wanted to do a bit of a slideshow with this one, and StreamYard makes it very easy for me to incorporate that because this week, for the Secrets of the Liminal Spirits, particularly dealing with the Liminal Spirits Oracle. Everything's backwards here, so it's more fun. I want to talk about painting the spirits because I've been getting there's fascinating questions. I love folks' questions about the deck, working with the deck, how the deck was made. And one of the things that has come up again and again is particularly about how did I choose to depict certain spirits? Why did I do these things? And, all sorts of stuff, which is probably not so much a mystery for folks who have been tracking my art, I don't know, in the last decade, or if you're lucky enough or cursed enough to have known me for 2 to 3 decades as well, then probably none of this is a mystery at all. But I wanted to talk a bit about the process. This whole deck, I started off with an idea that was just some fun little paintings. And once I did those paintings, that's when I launched into this would be a really good Oracle deck. What if I do this? So I'm going to do the share screen. So I'm going to show you kind of the process of the artwork. And if you're leaving comments, I'm going to try to address those things afterwards because I want to keep focused on what I want to tell you. And then if you have questions, furthermore, concerning what I talk about today or anything else, please put those, please comment. So hopefully you can hear me, you can see me all well. And let me get the share screen started. All right. So it's going to bounce because I have there we go. Excellent. All right. I'll make sure that I can toggle this part so I can do both at once. So, all right. So what you're looking at right now, these 6 paintings were the primary inspiration for this deck. They are paintings, mixed media paintings on wood, about 14 inches wide. They're on recycled wainscot, which I like to do a lot of my artwork on recycled wood. And wainscot is a nice, consistent thing. It's also easy for me to sand and to work with. And so the first painting that I did is the one that you see on the left, which is the mushroom painting. And then the rest of them, I think I kind of took turns back and forth. But you see here, we have the mushroom, we have the deer spirit, we have a toad or frog spirit, we have the corvid, crow raven spirit, we have foxglove, and we have the sheep. And let's get a little bit closer on these. So here you see details of the corvid spirit, the foxglove spirit, and the sheep spirit. And you're going, I don't remember there being foxglove or sheep in the deck. That's because they didn't make it to the deck. The deck is 42 cards. I could have gone on and on about this deck could have been huge and you wouldn't have been able to shuffle it. So I had to kind of consider what was I most inspired with. And so some of these were on the list, but once I got the finished paintings done for the deck, they didn't make it. So as you can see, also the format. So these paintings, I was just doing them because I was following up with some other ideas that you'll see shortly. They're not card format. I know folks are like, you should do things with those long paintings that you have. I'm like, yes, but they don't. They make bookmarks. They make really nice art pieces. They're not necessarily, to me, the best way to use a functional deck. They're very easy to bend or to get damaged. So I wasn't thinking about crafting an Oracle deck at this point. I was more about, let me explore these ideas. And so you can see, though, this is the original inspiration for the corvid. Foxglove actually got some little changes later, but I didn't get a good photograph of her before I sent her off to her next owner. And then you have the sheep. And so they definitely have more of a human aspect to them. With the foxglove, you see the little face peeping out of the blossom. The sheep also has a mixture of, that the sheep nose, and then there's a little cloven hoof in there, the furry texture, where the corvid has the claws, but the face is a little bit more mask-like, and kind of similar to some other things I've done with the Morrigan. So there's a touch of that energy in there. And the other three you see here at the mushroom, the deer spirit and the toad, right? And there's some mixtures of things going on here, but what I really want to focus on, particularly for this a little bit, is the evolution of the deer spirit, because I'm going to say, I'm amused that so many folks out there I've seen, especially on YouTube, have been creeped out by the deer card. Just are like, I think he's cute. I think he's adorable. He feels really friendly to me. Not so much the creep factor. So I kind of want to talk about what that's about too, and why some of these cards also morphed. As you can see here, the mushroom, she's a little bit more of a lady, that we get a sense of, and the final mushroom card does not look like that. So it really went far off into the other end. So a little bit, here are good examples of where the corvid card went. You see a little bit more of, a bird face, but we still have those more frontal eyes, and same concept with the way the skull is going with that. And you can see, I'm going to just flip back to the deer has also gotten a bit stranger. And then as you see there with the mushrooms, again, on the left there, and they're all on the right. All right, so getting from here to there. And if you're only like, why these don't exactly look like the cards? Because these are the paintings. These are the scans of the paintings. So it wasn't until they were scanned in and cleaned up and had text added to them, it's really about cropping them in. So you're seeing the card has to be at least this big and some bleed area. So I was doing them on 5x7 wooden birch blocks. So to go back in time to understand a bit of what I do when I paint, right? You have to go. Let's go back about to the 90s, to the late 90s in particular. So the image that you see on the left is the sorcerer, which is found in the Three Brothers Cave in France. This is a drawing of what the anthropologist, the person who discovered these particular set of cave paintings made a drawing what he thought it looked like. And I saw this drawing long before I saw what the actual wall looks like. And you also have to remember, what he saw when that space was first opened up is not what we see now. Most of the cave paintings, once they have been exposed to air circulation, other humans breathing and such, their decomposition immediately starts happening, right? It's exposure to elements, to fungus, to all this stuff going on. So we still don't know, like we can guess, like, did he embellish it? Did he not? We don't know. But this image fascinated me, and has been a central theme, a recurring theme, if you will, in my art, particularly where exploring concepts of the masculine divine, and the sort of the shape-shifting parts of the layering of like where the boundaries are between the human, the divine, the animal spirit, like we are animals, like where does this meet? And so this painting that you see on the right is one of many, many pieces that I did at this time. It's actually a fairly small painting, about maybe 6x6 or 8x8. Just another interpretation of it. But I did huge prints, basically, almost as big as me, with this image. And I have more modern interpretations of it as well. I didn't grab a slide of it, but if you look into my galleries and the series from Witch Heart, there's the Queen of the Sabbath. There's what I've called the shaman, for lack of a better word, and I guess I could have called him the sorcerer too, but it's kind of referencing this idea of like we're learning and exploring, like what do these things mean? Where do these images come from? So you can see him popping up again, and it's that strange sort of merger between the human aspect and we consider the animal, the deer, the stag, and particularly the stag aspect. And I'm just realizing now that I missed one of my major images. So maybe I'm going to pull that up in a little bit because I feel like like I'm so excited about the slide presentation. I still missed some slides. So this is, like I said, this painting is going back to the late 1990s. And much more recently, with the merger of kind of considering the animal and plant spirits, these paintings here and drawings are from around 2014 or 2015. Again, on the little drawing, you're right, it's a little tiny piece. Again, you've got this sort of deer, witch father, stag spirit, perhaps Cernunnos energy going on. And then on the left are just ideas that I've had. And actually the middle one, the Rose Maiden, is something that, again, I have also been drawing since the mid-90s or longer. And this idea of part woman, part rose, bluetith, that type of energy, where the one on the left is sort of a squid, octopus type of energy. And then you have this peacock creature. I think it's actually the peacock maiden is what it's called on that right side of those. So kind of strange mergers of things. And there's also this series of drawings I was doing. These are black and white drawings of where, again, you see that the early days of this mushroom spirit. I was just sort of fascinated of like, what does the spirit of these things look like? You know, when we go out and commune with the plants, you know, there is the physicality of the plant before you, you know, of like mugwort, right? Like what it smells like, what the leaves look like, what the flower blossoms look like, how it grows, what its life cycle is. But then there's the other layer of the spirit itself. Like what is the part that communes, you know, is in touch with us? If we closed our eyes to what we see physically before us and opened our minds to what it as itself might see itself, or would like to commune with us on that level, that's where we're getting to. And so on the left is that mushroom spirit. In the middle is sort of this root spirit essence. So it's more older kind of deteriorating, but also sustaining growth sense of root, tree root. And then there's the owl spirit. So if you look at that owl spirit on the right, you should see a little bit of a sense of the card that we have in the deck, right? There's this little peeking over the shoulder, the same essence of it. It's just I went more closer to the owl representation than this part of the spirit. But this is again, if you know my art, I draw lots of owls, and I have a lot of owl women. We could just do a slide presentation on the owl women, and owl beings as well. But there's that merger in there. So two more from this group. We have the fox spirit, and here, you know, again, this one is a little bit more of that strange merger, that blending of the human aspect, or what we might see as that, and the fox spirit. But to me, it still encompasses the energy of the fox spirit. And you, again, you see those aspects as this deer. This one, to me, reads a little bit more feminine. I call this one the forest spirit. Now, a funny thing about this, so these are, as I said, from 2017, and I think it was in 2018 is where I for the very first time, saw Princess Mononoke. And I lost my shit in the theater, because when the deer spirit, the forest god, the deer god appears, I'm like, holy shit, like someone else has seen this thing like I have seen it. You know, because people are like, oh, it looks like that. And there's a whole thread of people are like, that reminds me of the deer god or the spirit from that movie. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because this is how I've been seeing it for such a long time. And if you see more of my Cernunnos paintings, maybe I'll see if I can pull one up in a little bit, since I didn't put it in the slideshow, it's there too. Like when I communicate, when I commune, when I draw, paint Cernunnos, that's what I see. There is sometimes a blending where this more masculine, male, excuse me, words are hard. This more human male type of energy comes through, but there's still this rawness of the stag, and there's this very expressive energy where it's not so much about the words. Like, I don't feel like Cernunnos is a big talker. I feel like there's so much more said in the body language than there is in the words. That has just been something that has been my experience for a very, very long time. And when I created that, there's some people are like, that doesn't look like the horn god to me. And then there's other people going, holy shit. So they're like, so there's a whole bunch of us throughout the world who kind of see it in that way. And like, well, that's pretty neat. So yeah, seeing Studio Ghibli create something that I'm like, that's how I see it. And I never have, even though that movie's been out for a while, like I'd never seen it. And it's not particularly one of those images, like it's not cute. So it doesn't really show up on merchandise. Like, with My Neighbor Totoro, you have cute little animals, and Kiki's Delivery Service, you have the cat, like have all of these things that are super cute, and you're not going to really run into the deer god. Like you'll run into the spirits, right? Those little forest spirits with the little knocky heads, which get also pretty like, those are so cool. I'm a dork. So with that, you kind of see where that's going in there. And so this brings us back to what you see here with those paintings. This is sort of the evolution of it. And so when I made these paintings, I'm going to just end the share here, stop sharing. Hi. So when I made these, right, I had the ideas of what I initially explored, what I have been exploring in my artwork. But because I sequestered myself for basically 2 weeks, like this is all I did was create those 42 paintings, some of the ideas changed, some of them became more clear, and I just let them speak to me. So even though I might have come at it with one way, it said, this is how I want to be depicted. This is the vision instead. So whether you want to see it as an evolution of that concept or the understanding that since this is going into an oracle that so many people, well, I was hoping so many people will be using, and yes, a lot of people now use it, which is amazing to me, just blows my mind. That's like, you have to leave room for what do the spirits want. And as an artist, that's always been an important thing. It's like, what do I feel, what I see in my mind's eye? When I look at it, is it like, does this feel right or does this feel off? So I'm going to see if I can pull up real quick for you all the Cronus, which hopefully, since I didn't quite, I had this in my head to begin with. I'm like, I'm going to totally do this thing. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I can get him to share. All right. Share screen. Boom. I don't know what it's going to do because it's probably going to be a bit wonky. All right. So you get my whole screen there. And you can sort of see that a lot of similar aspects, particularly in the nose. The nose and the eyes and the ears are those elements. The things that change a little bit are the lips. But when I think of stag energy, when I think of elk, particularly, I mean, the bigger, more ancient forms of these things, then there's often that beard that goes into the crest that's around. Let's close that. There is also, I'll come back to you all. Hello. I'll show you one more painting, which is the painting I did for Jason Mankey's book, the Horn God book that will be coming out, I think, in June of this coming year. We're almost at 2021, folks. Isn't that exciting? Let's see. Sorry for it's like, I thought about this whole thing with the slideshow and getting there. All right. The question is, did I put it under Jason? Did I put it under Kronos? Or did I put it under Horn? This is also the issue of my let's see if I can find, I don't know if I can zoom in. Let me see. First, let me go back and find Jason's. Should be under. Come on. This is also the thing of like, I have different hard drives and places where these things hang out, which is terrible. Absolutely terrible. All right. I think I found where I've hidden Jason's. There we go. All right, there is the cover aspect, and clicking that, and I will make this a little bit smaller so that it focuses on the image, and then hopefully from there I'll be able to make it bigger for you all. All right, this will be a close-up of that. Share screen, boom. Application, there we go. All right. So yeah, my file system is witchy and chaotic. So this is the horn god of the witch's cover, and let's see. There's actually some of him that you won't see in the cover. I think they cropped him closer to the middle of the chest. Let's see if I can get this to come in a bit more. Right. So you can see there, really aspects of that deer spirit are still coming in through Cernunnos. So to me, there just is that overlap of like, what is the essence of that forest spirit, this deer spirit, this god aspect, that to me so much that Cernunnos is the spirit of the forest itself as well. And that's, it's my relationship to it. And so that's part of that factor. Let's see if I can get the other one. Someone asked to see closer in on that. Share screen. Boom. Where are you hiding? I know this is so much fun and entertaining, right? Where has Tempest put our chat? In so many places. There we go. So now let's see if we can do this. So it will be smaller. There we go. Look at this. Look at me tackling technology. So this painting I did for Jason Mankey as well. This is for Jason Ari's in their temple spaces where he lives. And I think he dates back to about 2016. So the painting I just showed you, I just did this year, the one for the Horned God cover. And part of it was to evoke back to this painting. So again, you kind of get that sense. It's in the eyes. It's in the eyes. It's in the ears. A little bit in the nose, but it's it has that strange waver between perhaps human aspects of it to more deer, more wild, more spirit. And so I can get you a little sense of that. All right. So what this means, let's see if I can change this back out. All right, let me stop that share. Hi, hello everyone. There's too many screens. Too many screens. And no, so part of the thing, I think people are a little unsettled by the deer card, which again, like to me, it's not the only one that has those sort of qualities throughout the deck. And clearly to me, if I was going to say one of the creepiest cards, it might be the Corvid. But again, it's like, what's your creep factor? Because I'm like, yay. The Belladonna. So Belladonna, when Llewellyn asked me about what cards to put on the cover of the box and cover of the book, and I was like, oh, the mushroom card. The mushroom card also is what started this whole thing. It's like I did that painting first, as that group of paintings you saw, and she was the last card. And I say she, but definitely in the end, it's out of the binary for sure. But that first one definitely has a she aspect to it. It was the most difficult card because it did not want to go like that first painting. It wanted to be something else. And once I finished that one, I was like, yes, that's how she's supposed to be. But some people find the Belladonna card threatening. Like, you kind of want to. You should. Like, she's very pretty, but you should exercise caution with working with this. The Monk's Hood is part of that strange shadow that's going on there is the idea that there is this shadow, this creature, this something lurking behind that I don't think a lot of people pick up on. And of course, with, things like the mandrake, it's classic. We expect that the mandrake is going to look like a little human. But there are other ones too that are more subtle. such as environment. And it's part of a stang, but there's also a sense of a body. There's a figure there. The same with the walnut. The walnut card has dancing spirits around it. And I'd say that there's other cards too. This is part of the secrets part, right? So some of them are more, and like you're kind of warned that's going to go weird from the very first card, right? Here is the labyrinth, right? So there's that eye. You know that this is going to be something unusual, and it is the witches. It'd be calling witches spirit cards, right? They're meant to play with your mind. And so, if it's the uncanny valley effect, like to me, uncanny valley effect for what creeps me out is more of the digital art that just doesn't quite look it's like, to me, it's digital art. And that's because perhaps that I am of a generation where it's, even though I grew up learning basic digital stuff, like I was part of one of the early users for like Mac Paint and things like that, is I love traditional media. And the digital media I like has to either be like whole honestly digital, or is doing such a good job of transcending and becoming its own space that I feel comfortable with it. But like there was some of those decks coming out in the early O's that were Photoshop with like fake backgrounds, like those things did not make me happy. So like I understand where some of that happens. But witches are weird. We see things weird, and it's weird is in how many variations and explorations that you want to see it. So, this deck isn't about making you comfortable. It might give you comfort, but it's not about making you comfortable. It is about pushing your limits, pushing your barriers, moving into the liminal space so that you can commune with these spirits. These are not fictional things. These are actual spirits within the world that you can speak to. And I guess it has to do a little bit with your belief system, but that's my belief system, is that these things, they have a spirit. And just as I have a spirit, and just as a place has a spirit, and the cat that's probably about to bounce into this room in a minute also definitely has a spirit. So there's variations. These are ideas that get you into those. So that's the beginning. All right, now I'm going to check out your questions. So I'm going to scroll back and let's see here. So, all right. I thought I saw one earlier. There's the file system, and I zoomed in, so that's good. Victoria asked, do I paint to music? And yes, I do paint to music. I actually write more to music, but I can't listen to words. So goofy my brain is. So when I'm writing, I love instrumental music, or I love things that are there's some like nonsense and chanting, and not to say chanting is nonsense, but there's things like the Cocteau Twins, which is not actual. It's a made up, words are a made up language. Dead Kid Dance has some of that too, and a few other artists that I like to listen to, as well as of like the chanting that isn't going to trigger my attention. But when I'm painting, I might put music on, but my favorite thing to actually do when I'm painting is to put on a podcast, to listen to something. And so I have a whole obscene library of things that I'm subscribed to from The Moth. I love stories. So LeVar Burton's series, there's Podcastle, and then there's the more kind of mix between science and technology and everyday life, which could be This American Life, Reply All, the TED Talk one, TED Talks, that's done by NPR. This Is Love, Invisibilia, Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell, like a whole bunch of different, not to say crazy things. There are a whole bunch of wonderful, diverse things that, whatever I'm in the mood for is what I'll tend to listen to. So there's that. Heather says, Belladonna looks secretive and mysterious, not scary. Right? I guess somebody once described her as threatening. And I was like, you know, your response to certain art, like that is always a thing that I find fascinating as an artist. Like I love to see what people think. I am going to be amused by some of them. I don't really get mad. I don't get mad at people's interpretation of my art. Reviews that are special. Even then, I think I laugh mostly at things. It's I find it interesting. I find it fascinating. But there are some things that we have a response to, right? Like I said about the uncanny valley thing. Like where mine lies is in how things are rendered and how does that make me feel. But I also know that I have certain aversions to things. Like when I was in college, I absolutely did not like performance art, but I thought, and I'm not talking about performance like dance and music and things like that. I'm talking about art that is classified as performance art. And so I took a class in performance art so that I can figure out why I don't like it. I don't know if I really ever came to a conclusion of that, because now we're going on a couple decades. Still mostly don't like performance art. It's got to be done well. What does that mean? All right. Let's see. Other questions or thoughts? Thank you all. Thank you, Barry. Thank you all. Sophie. Yes. Oh, sorry. It just totally jumped huge for me. So, all right. House of Pandora. I prefer fine art decks too. Yeah, like there's just something about. It's like it would take me probably less time to create something that was wholly digital. Maybe. And I feel like when I look at a lot of decks are being made now today, I'm like, I'm in all of the folks who do a really good job of like completely digital art for a whole deck. And I'm going, it's going to take me a lot longer because of the physical process to get it through my hand the way that I can do through a bunch of layers and with Photoshop and all the other things that are out there. I'm also, as the older I get, the more cranky I am about technology, which is why I'm like, yay, StreamYard. I can mostly figure this shit out. Heather makes a point of uncanny valley. For Heather is something that is trying very hard to seem human, but just missed it in a strange and off-putting way. Yeah. Which is a guy is like, why is the digital thing with the Photoshop with the fake backgrounds? Like, why does that piss me off so much? Right. Thank you, Caesar. Nope. There you go, Jill Mar. Sorry, I'm reading the one title then with your name in there too. Jackie, I'll check out the Midnight Library. I'm always excited to hear new podcasts as well. So, yeah, I think really what was annoying was like a lot of the things that were happening in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and even the early 90s that was more like you just felt like somebody took a bunch of drugs and thought like this would be a really cool idea for art, and somebody's going to pay me to get like naked and roll around on the floor of a gallery. To me, I'm like, that was just a series of bad choices versus ones that have a teaching aspect and exploration. I mean, I guess you could say that rolling around on a gallery floor would make you uncomfortable. Maybe that's their point, but there are some folks who just get in for the exhibitionist part, and that's a thing. Scotty, hope I pronounced that right. What do you think of the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction? I hope I get to see it. Right now, New England, we are, I can't quite tell because it's now gotten dark out, but we are about to have another bunch of snow. So the sky is a giant gray blanket of nothingness. So I'm hoping it might clear up enough by tomorrow to see something. As like, what could it mean? Well, I've been saying for the last 4 years that if we call this the tower time, which has done a spectacular job of being so, for better or for worse. It's like, good job at sucking, yay! The card after the tower card is the star card. And so the idea of this solstice star, right, the fact that these two planets are aligning on the solstice to create this large star as well, things are moving into Aquarius, from what I understand. I am not an astrology person, by the way, so I'm just seeing what goes up in my feed when it comes to that. I think it's a lovely sign. I hope it's a beacon of light for the future, something to be guided by as we move into the next. Isabel. So I do digital paintings in college. It takes me days, but my real sweet spot is doing a physical painting, incorporating into digital college. Yes. A lot of my art that I was doing in the early 2000s was a mixture of physical art and digital, mainly because I didn't have any studio space. I didn't really have a space I felt super comfortable in to make any big art. And so spending a lot of time collecting old photos and scanning and drawings and putting things back and forth. Mainly what I do now today in terms of digital art is I'll often do a black and white drawing, scan it in, and I might hand color it digitally, because what that allows me to do is still have the black and white to do things with that might not involve color, or that I'm going to make a t-shirt out of or something like that, and then to be able to digitally color it any way I want. So the next oracle that I'm working on is probably going to have more elements of that, because it will make it a bit easier. The cover of Anatomy of a Witch was several layers put together, but I went back to old school. I did the ink drawing and I did it on tracing paper, and then behind it on a separate piece of watercolor paper, I did all the color with watercolor and colored pencils, and I layered them together digitally. Because if I can find the most ass backwards way of doing something when it comes to art, why not? So that's a bit of how I roll with that. And I really would like to be able to learn more about video, to do more interesting things, not only for this, but for artistic purposes. I've had a vision now for like 10 years of being able to incorporate projection and dance in my art in such a way that I'd like to be able to manifest, but I need to know enough about animation to do it. So maybe 2020 will be the year that I will figure out how to do animation in such a way that it appeases my brain, and I can technically do it. So that's a big thing. I would like to do that. So we'll see. That's like, say, why am I able to incorporate this? Because like I've tried with YouTube to incorporate, insert images, and it just hangs on me forever. I can't get things to insert. It just doesn't, and I get really frustrated. And then I'm like, well, I've waited 20 hours and it still hasn't done anything. Sorry, YouTube, sometimes you really suck. So I'm like, well, there's got to be other ways, which is, StreamYard at least leaves me allow me to do this very, very simply. So yay, StreamYard, thank you. So that is a little bit of exploration, and I think some folks also ask, like, why is the deer spirit the only one in the fur fauna group that got that treatment? Well, you saw what the fox drawing looked like, and if you're just joining us, like, go back and look through the slide presentation of black and white drawing. It just came when I came down to it. Within that group, you have the hair. I've never done a hair that didn't look something like that, and I might as well pull that card out so you all be like, what are you talking about? Hey, talk about. This card also creeps people out, but I think that, again, this is folks who have not seen the art that I've been doing for almost the last decade of hearts with eyes in them. It's a symbol. It's my personal symbol. I don't have to explain it to you. Sorry. So the hair. Again, there's something about this position. There's a few different positions. That bring him in here. Sorry, he's a little shiny. The spirals have long been a part of my art, but there's something about this hair's position that, when I think about hair spirit and rabbit spirits and such, it's just like this. And I had rabbits growing up. I had a rabbit I was very, very close to, particularly in my teen years, and it just feels like it's part of that energy in there. So it's how I see it. where, like with the bees, I did this variation of the bee, the honeybee, but you can also see, well, since we're here, let me pull up the queen bee so you can see where that went as I drop the whole deck on the floor. It's all fine. It's fine. It's good. We're good with this. All right. So that was what it wanted for the deck. But about a year, I guess it was almost a year later, the bee energy, actually I've been working with different kinds of bees in my art for 8 years or so. Let's see if she shows up. How did she show up on there? Okay, let's make her bigger. Okay, and to me, this is also a bit of the bee spirit, right? Of course, she's got her heart in there, right? But for the deck, it's not when it came through, and that's also speaks to my relationship with a lot of these entities, just because I might have known them. Some of them I've known for most of my life. Other ones that I might have known for a decade or 2 decades. Is the relationship's going to change over time? You can see parts of her. So I love this image. And I'm also not, I don't go like, I love my art, but some paintings just like, I love the spirit behind this painting. I love working with her too. And that was the thing. So, let's see, going back to, yay. Reading back to, continues to be like the art of reclaiming, what was the, it's bouncing around me. Clarification, please continue to stimulate the art of reclaiming conversation. Right. Art is an amazing thing. It's a frame by frame animation. Yeah, it's like I would have, I'm going to blame RISD. I would have taken an animation class at RISD, but the film, video, and animation department is so small. It was really highly competitive. It was hard to get into those classes. But I also don't think I had the time and the focus. In those times where I could take those additional classes, I took jewelry, I took ceramics. My first one I did printmaking. I forget what the last one was that I did. I think it was a paper making class. So I'm glad I went with those, but because 6 weeks isn't enough to really get into animation. So yeah, like some of these, they're not meant to be the only way. Here's that fox. I only dropped half the deck on the floor. Right. So the fox spirit here definitely looks more like a fox, because that's what the fox spirit wanted. It wanted this representation, where the deer spirit wanted that variation in there. And I could say the same things about the spirits of place and how they wanted to be depicted. So, it's just a matter of respecting their authority, respecting what their wishes are for the purpose of this deck. But the thing also I wanted to say about so here's the thing about the deer spirit, right? And the kind of the creepy factor again. Or what might be unsettling outside of the uncanny valley, because I don't really think it's trying hard to be human here. And also some people said Avatar, and it's kind of, another funny thing, I didn't see Avatar until this past January. It hasn't even been a year yet. I missed out on a lot of stuff because of things that were going on in my life at that time. And it was with somebody who definitely did not want to see it and made life difficult if I wanted to do things like that. So, by the way, fuck abusive relationships, so don't be in one. There's a lot more to go into that, but we're talking about art here. So to kind of tap back into that Cernunnos factor and the deer god, right? If you watch Princess Mononoke, right? there is an aspect of life and particularly death that comes with the deer spirit. There's sense of rebirth, right? There's so much more depth into that energy. It's not just like, oh, hey, I'm a deer spirit, go to deer. It's more of that, the mysteries. Like there is the lightness of the deer and the enjoyment of life. But it's more than just the deer that you see on the side of the road, eating and hoping it's not going to jump in front of your car. Well, that is sort of a modern death aspect, though, if you think about it, right? But Kernanus, the wild hunt should make you feel uncomfortable. Not that death should make you feel uncomfortable, though, right? I think but that's a thing. That is a symptom of our society, that we don't have a comfortable relationship with death or birth. If you really want to get into that, that's a whole other rant. But it's that thing of like the darkness, the shadows. Also, shadows not being a negative thing. Check out my latest winter solstice blog, Embrace the Shadows, about that. Please do. Perfect timing for today. But what I also kind of find funny about him, and I had posted a GIF in the conversation about him, is, because you were like, he seems friendly, he seems sort of shy, he seems like, I love everybody's expressions of him, and I was sort of like, when you say that, it makes me think of like Joey from Friends, of like, how you doing? Like he's doing that a little bit, which you also want from the stag god. Like you have the Lord of the Woods and that type of energy. You want, as Raina says, they have sex and death, right? Those things coming together. So this is how you doing? You want to go on a wild hunt? It's very sexy and death oriented. It's about the spirits, about connecting with the spirits. So the spirit of Rukal is awful. So, and it's Rue card, right? That's a great thing. Like if you look at the group of the herbs, right? So within that group of the 5 cards, the only one that doesn't have some sort of feature that you recognize, whether it's the monk's hood shadow, the belladonna face, the little mandrake, the mugwort has the eyes, the rue has the chimaruda underneath it. So that tangible connection to humanity and our realm of magic is what we do in our interaction with rue, right? That chimaruda, that Italian sprig, that has all these symbols worked into it. So it's like, it's that side of the spirit and working with it too. So part of it is sometimes it plays peekaboo like the mugwort does. And sometimes it's like, see, this is our connection. This is where we forged our connection over time, is through these symbols and through this interpretation or these lines, right? So, and that's the thing about art. It's like, we could probably make a deck for every one of these spirits. Like he could have his own life cycle of like 13. Of course, here we go. My editor's gonna be like, so you said this thing. So 13 cards, right? Why not the life cycle of the deer spirit or mugwort as it grows, or a whole aspect of entering the labyrinth, like the growth of the walnut tree from seed into leaf, and then the explorations of the myth of that. Like, I'm like just making more work for myself, but that's a whole thing, right? But here, this deck is a glimpse into one of those many, many cycles, those little split seconds, those little movies, right? It's a frame of a movie, going back to what Isabel said about the frame by frame, picture by picture, right? Getting into those individual cells, and that each one has its own movement and exploration to it. And so I think that's a wonderful way of looking at any oracle or tarot deck. You have the after tarot, right? Of like what happens after that, and the before one, like what happens just before this image is captured. That should be what fascinates our minds as we're interacting with these types of oracles, is what is the story? Because your right brain responds to story, it responds to concept. It's about possibilities. And so art is not just about, this image makes me feel good. Like, why does it make you feel good? Why, when you look at this hair, do you feel comfort or do you feel discomfort? Like, what are you doing? what is your relationship? And that's a lot of what working with the spirits are, and the mushrooms here, the sinister, was the word that I think Alicia used when I was like, she's like, okay, you gave us the mushrooms and belladonna. Can we pick a slightly less sinister card? Like, well, sinister is a great word. It's a perfect word, right? So, we lost some of the human recognizable aspects, but we still have those eyes, and this connection, right? I think with the mushroom, and when you think about, I feel like I'm going to mispronounce it, mycelium, these networks of mushrooms, of fungus, and how these help spread information, and it's like a nervous system and all those such. So you get the sense of the nerves, right, from the ribs, right, in there of the mushrooms, and then like these little aspects here of like community and family, like the little small mushrooms. Like, love working with spirits. I love working with the mind, right, and making it an art. So, well, while we're here, cat, my kitty cat. And this particular cat, people are like, you don't have a white cat. No, this is Frida. Frida's Alicia's cat. When I went to sit down and do this one, it was like, nope, it's not going to be. It's going to be this cat. And you can follow Frida on Instagram. I'll see if I can post. I'm blanking right now on what Frida's handle is, but a little bit of the inspiration for that. Frida's a very unusual cat, and I thought, a little bit more than I just want to pet that. It's more of like, I'm going to get into your business, which is also very appropriate for cats. All right, folks. As I'm rambling on here for a bit, I'm going to wrap this up, because this is what happens when I see all of you. I kind of want to have that conversation, and exploring all of these things at once. So, other things. Victoria says, I love my art thing. I feel that sometimes something comes out on the canvas you didn't exactly plan, and there they are, and you love them. Yes. Also, so much of my art starts off with a vision. Like, I just am about to fall asleep and I see a thing, or I'm just somewhere else or doing some other activity. It usually involves being in bed. And then I have this vision and I see a thing, and then it's like, how do I translate this? Like, what does it mean? That's part of the fun for me too, is I saw this thing, like the heart with the eye and the bees on it, so the honey of the heart, or a few of the variations of that theme I've done, right? It's something that I work out, or hopefully work out, in that painting, but still, it's like some of these concepts are too big that I'm going to come back to them again and again and again. And the things I don't feel great about, often just I put them aside. I don't get worked up. But so many of them, I was like, once you start, it's like, that's it. You're on the racehorse. There's no way getting off. You've been glued to it until it's done. That's the only time you can unseat yourself from it. So the bee woman, the queen bee, is available on my website. So you can get the queen bee as a print, and several different varieties of print, as well as a candle wrap. And she'll probably be a part of the calendar for 2022. I've been working on a series that are all the same format, or close to it, so they'll be on that too. So, hey, hi, Kyle. Sorry, I didn't get to say hi to everybody as you're all, but thank you all for being here and listening to me. And hi, Soren. Yay, thank you. Thank you for recommending my work. I love part of this thing. So art is something that it starts with me, right? It's something that I often feel like I need to make for myself, the fine art. Right, the exploration of the paintings, like the series that started this off was just like, I have these ideas, I have to get these out, and I am constantly inspired by spirits and spirit shapes, and what do those mean? And I probably, if I had the time and the space and had nothing else to do, would just do paintings of all sorts of the weird spirits and things that I see. Maybe that'll be another goal for 2021, right? It's like, I have to run a business. Oh, but I also need to paint. But like versus the sigils, where I am thinking more about the community first. But what's great about the art that I sit and do for myself is that other people, again, like the deer god, right? Like the other people have seen this and they connect with that. And I feel like that's the same way with the deities too, is that when you see that and you're like, that is my version of Hecate, or that is my version of the Morgan, and people just respond to it, you know, that they see their aspect of the divine, that they're what has been revealed to them, they see it as somebody else has also made or created or shares in the vision, which is really reaffirming, or maybe gives other people who don't have that vision yet another perspective, another way to see it, which is awesome. It's like, I try not to knock anybody else's, you know, it's like I'm hard on some digital art, but I would never say that they're horrible artists, right? This is more of like the things like, if it's a tarot, I'm not going to work with it. I'm not going to personally recommend it, but I'm not going to, you know, slam anybody else's process in doing it, because that's how they're seeing it in the world. And for somebody, for everything that's out there in the world, somebody has had a use for it or a need for it, and somebody on the other side of it connects with it. Like, that's how it is. It might be very small, tiny group, or it can be huge, and you never know. Like, some of my most favorite paintings aren't the ones that everybody loves. And some of the ones I'm like, I don't know. I don't know about this one. People are like, oh my God, and they lose their shit. And it's endlessly fascinating. I really do enjoy seeing that. And I love seeing what people feel about it, how it relates to them, whether they find it creepy or whether they find it amazing. There was, you know, to kind of sum this up, there was another discussion thread where someone said, like, I sent some of your cards to somebody and they found them creepy and unsettling. And I look at them like, these are the happy, colorful, joyful things, right? And it amuses me that some of these things to me, which are bright, beautiful, and colorful, and to me life affirming, that people find disturbing. But like, that's their experience, and that's how they're coming to it. You know, it's like, for like your you go between like, your art is very disturbing, your art is not dark enough. Like, I don't know. I make the art to satisfy my brain and my heart and my spirit. And if you find it on this side, you find it on that side, that's up to you. So that's how it is. And the same is true for witchcraft. Yeah, Heather's and Isabel, you get some of these before sleep, right? Yeah, I do have on my phone the little notes. It tends to be more, the visions stick. The visions tend to come up, especially if I remember the situation in which I saw the vision in. But like words and phrases and ideas that aren't stuck to one particular vision, I have to put those in my phone at night, and I'll be like, I don't want to be up. And the cats are like, is it time for food yet? Like, it's freaking 1 a.m. It's not time for food. So. Am I doing anything for the solstice? I kind of feel like I've done so much for the solstice, leading up to today. I'm gonna take a sip. I've not drunk anything. Okay, because I did last week the Zoom Patreon, we had our ritual, and then I filmed a variation of that, and that's up on YouTube. So if you're looking for a ritual to do, that is on YouTube. That is episode 105 of the Ritual Workout. And it's not your usual workout. It is me in this room kind of explaining the process of that. And we also had a little virtual coven Zoom thing today. So I think the rest of my evening is just going to be chill, relax, and allow for the quietude. So I'm not doing anything else specific. I kind of felt like, oh, and I also wrote a blog post, technically too, when I wrote a poem for it. So I think what I might do between today and tomorrow is also record the poem that I wrote that's in the blog post. So which I've shared on my Facebook page. You can find that pretty easy, or you just search winter solstice, embrace the shadows, and you'll find it. All right, let's see. Thanks. I was going to call you House Pandora. So I find your art pretty balanced. Your depiction of nature spirits do resonate with me and find them accurate. Thank you. I just like, well, our brains also work in so many different ways too. And I like to acknowledge that is that people have different ways of seeing the world. And that's again why I was so excited when I watched the Studio Ghibli film. It was like, somebody sees it like I do, and clearly not a lot of people see it that way because they have not put it in as many items for merchandise. It annoys me. Like, I would like to buy all the Dear God shit, because I love that style of animation, and I love many of those stories. So, but also like somebody else, I like, it's kind of thing like, as an artist, I often support other artists whose art I'm like, I love this. I find this inspiring. This makes me feel good. There's some art behind me. It's like the things that I collect are not too dissimilar from my own art in so many ways. It's sort of like somebody sees it in a slightly different way or an exciting way. And that's what I love. So, hello, Claire. Welcome from England. And just above that, Victoria was just posting the live stream of a UK solstice sunrise. Like, what time is it? What time is it? We got that one in this video. All right, folks. So I have rambled on for an hour. This was going to be like a quick 10-15 minute thing. See? But I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope for those of you who are rewatching that stuck back through, that you got some other explorations about the art as well, that you found meaningful. And if you are seeing this on YouTube, because it's being broadcast right now to Facebook and to YouTube, and you have questions, please be free to put them in the comments. If you have questions about the art or anything else about the Liminal Spirits Oracle, because I will be making more episodes that dive into the Oracle deck, particularly other ways of using it, other ways of seeing it. And if there's other cards that fascinate you, not necessarily because they creep you out, but other ways, I'm happy to talk about them too, because there's just, again, 42 cards. I could talk 5 minutes about each card, and we've gone on for 2 hours. So things that you find important or curious, please let me know. Happy solstice to everybody, whether you're celebrating the winter solstice up here in the Northern Hemisphere or the summer solstice in the Southern Hemisphere. Send us your warmth. It's probably snowing out. And please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'm sure I'll be doing another episode, at least on Facebook again soon. But if I don't see you before the new year, have an awesome, amazing new year. Let's get ready to make some magic happen. Thank you all. Bye.